finally got her to come out. And she was amazing throughout the book. She just got stronger and stronger. Fabulous stuff. Okay, this is her. Thirst was on me my first step in the field. It churned in my stomach. It cried in every muscle. It demanded water. Thirst was master. And I sometimes hallucinated leaf dew. Those little tiny beads of water were gourds of water on the leaves. My fingers, shoulders, and neck lost their aching, and time seemed to get lost somewhere, to float around and around over the fields like a bird that had nothing to do. As sweat dripped down my back and brow, everything seemed aloft in the air when those illusions came, when all those little tiny beads of water became gourds of water. And you couldn't hear anything, you couldn't taste, you couldn't see anything, and you had no clue where you were. You were put in a place where no one else was. You were all alone, and you were happy and pleased, and you finally thought you had reached the paradise you've been working for all these days, working all your life for this place, and it finally came to you in this muddy field with fleas and flies and wasps and all sorts of flying bugs. Here it came, landing on your drenched T-shirt and shading your eyes for a moment, an eternal moment when you thought that you had all the water in the world, and this just whisked you off into reveries. And every nerve had a calmness you never experienced. You never even realized that such peace existed because no one ever told you about this illusion. No book or Bible ever pleaded a place like this that came to you when you were at your lowest ebb and you couldn't take anymore and you couldn't believe in anything else. Suddenly you were surrounded with a wave of water. And I knew it wasn't real. But I couldn't help but look and stare and lick my lips at the mirage fade into shimmering heat waves. And I just keep on bending and picking as thirst nested under my tongue, becoming a deep hunger and darkness that ground itself into my bones and brain and gave no mercy nor rest. A thirst that made me believe I was the worst off human being in the world. It was that kind of thirst, that kind of despair that comes over you and never lets go. I became its prisoner. I belonged to it. It owned every part of my life and claimed me completely. And that was how I lived. There was not a day in my life that I had to live without thirst. I worked my life around it, made my dreams around thirst, decided on plans around thirst, always kept it in front of my eyes and in my mind. I never once did I get out of bed and not look out the window and think about thirst. And you didn't have to think about thirst. Not once did I look at the horizon or at the sky or the moon and didn't have to think about thirst. And no matter how many glasses of water I gulped down, it just seemed to grow and grow and grow. But I'm telling you right now, when that man cut my throat, I never had a thirst so fierce. A thirst for life as mine was being drained. I would have drank urine or vomit at that moment, my mouth contorting for one more drop of life, death inching its way up on me, shriveling in every pore and sucking my soul out, raspy throat stinging like bees maddened by a poker, my tongue swelling, my lungs suffocate, and through clenched teeth as I begged for one more second, I quenched myself on memories of my two baby boys, back in the bar, crawling around on the floor under the tables. Me doing my sound check on the stage mic, gasping through my tears and through the blood, worried that my baby boys might be sitting on the floor, biting into a pebble as if it was candy. Oh, and my beautiful husband, Casimiro, waiting on me to return. I'm telling you, never a thirst so fierce as just wanting one more second of life with my family. So that's that. I'll just read you a brief little thing from here. Let me read you I'm not even going to read you a full poem, okay? These are all from the collected works, some of them that I have. Okay, here's one. Okay. I was really lucky to get a great translator. Can you imagine that? Guess what it's strange what you do when a writer becomes idle. You know, I was making movies in Los Angeles at one time. I had a few really big hits, and then for some reason, Oliver Stone was sitting there in the room with the Bregman brothers, and there was this Asian woman on the table, and she looked absolutely delicious. And I said, I got to go use the bathroom. And I got off and I went down. It was in Century City. I didn't even go to use the bathroom. I went downstairs, got in my vehicle, and I drove. And I didn't even say goodbye to my 3 girlfriends. I drove, I drove, I drove, and I ended up in Phoenix. And I had no idea why I was in Phoenix. And then I slept on the floor of this friend's house, and I still had on my Rolex watch, my shoes from Venezuela, my suit tailored in New Orleans. I got to Albuquerque. My wife answered the door, and she said, did you sign the movie contract? It was Scarface 2. I said, no. She said, did you get a check? I said, no. She said, did you, why are you here? I said, I don't know. I think it was called Breakdown. We went out to eat, and I decided, since I was being honest, I might as well be honest. By the way, I had all these girlfriends. And she said, get out of the car. And I thought, I said, can I sleep on the couch? No. Okay, so I went from being in the Bregman office in Century City the day before that to standing in front. And this is something that's curious. No matter where you're at in the world, if you look up, you'll always see a Walmart sign. So I didn't know where to go, so I went to Walmart. And I was standing in front of Walmart, didn't have a clue where I was going to go. And then all these heroin addicts were coming up to me saying in slang, "No tenés unas pesetas para curarme." And they were saying, "Do you have any change?" And I said, "I'll give you what I got." And I started giving it to what I got. So there you go. And I realized I couldn't stand there. I couldn't stand there anymore. So I decided to just start walking down a dirt road. And when I started walking down a dirt road, it was very strange. The pit bulls came out. And in this area of Albuquerque, there's no sidewalks or night lights or anything like that. The pit bulls just come out. But I was more worried about the pit bull biting my shoe than actually biting me. So I put my knee in front of my shoe so it would bite my knee. That's the result of being completely sick, right? So anyway, what happened, thank you. What happened was I started crying. And I started weeping and weeping and weeping, standing there my whole life, one of the best scriptwriters in Hollywood with the greatest career, and I walk away from it. I end up on this road, and I'm weeping. And I hear all these lowriders come by yelling, "No llores, puto. Don't yell, you little bitch," right? I mean, don't cry, bitch, right? And I'm weeping. Little do they know that I probably wrote one of their great classic movies called Blood and Blood Out, right? Their movie, and they're saying, "Don't cry, bitch," and I'm like, crying. The reason I was crying, because down that road, when I was in an orphanage, I used to run away like crazy from the orphanage. That was the road that went to my grandma's house. But my